congratulations on your promotion, but we're not going to extend your contract like we would for anyone else. For the next 2 years, it was like a roller coaster. When I got back from Afghan, there just certain things kept happening. Bit by bit, it got worse. They sent me straight to hospital, still in my uniform, and I didn't come out for 5 days. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2015. Go home, don't come back to work. Don't think about work, we'll be in touch. Always quite sporty. I got offered a place at London Contemporary Dance School, but there was just something not quite fitting the bill. So took myself off to the Armed Forces Careers Office. I didn't join up just to be a clerk. I joined up to travel, to see the world, to see it in its purest form, the good and the bad. I was in Kandahar, but I was attached to one of the task forces out there. Our job was to try and keep them calm, say very little till they got to their first interrogation. I want to live my life the best I can.
This week on the Debrief, then, I've got a serving member of the Royal Air Force. So I'm going to bring her straight in. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm cool. Let's get straight into this, how I do with all my guests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get you into where you were a child, all right? And let's talk about how you were when you were small.
How I was when I was small. Wow. I was a bit of a tomboy.
Were you?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't a girl that wore pretty dresses. My mum used to have to kind of entice me into it for a party and then bribe me with something.
So young Georgie was daddy's boy, daddy's girl, daddy's boy.
I was a bit of both. You know, I always kind of learnt early on that mum was actually more strict.
Okay.
If I wanted something, go to dad.
No. Did you have a stable background, did you?
Yeah, my parents still together.
Okay.
So grew up in Herefordshire.
Cool.
So,
Whereabouts?
A little village called Alton.
Okay.
Just outside Leominster.
Yeah, I know Leominster. I don't know. I've heard of Alton. I've driven through it a couple of times.
It's a pretty little village. It's a little village in the middle of nowhere. Everyone marries farmers. Becomes a farmer's wife.
Yeah.
Not for me. So big wide world.
School-wise?
Yeah, I was a good student.
You were.
I
You were a bit of a SWAT.
I was a
Can
bit.
we go as far as saying you was a SWAT?
I was a bit straight, sporty, always quite sporty. And yeah, always liked to study, always liked to try hard, but also quite direct. Always had quite a direct approach.
Okay. Did you have any activities outside of school?
So I was ballet, tap, dance. So all the way through school, my whole upbringing was music and dance.
Okay.
So I played the piano, and I danced all the way through to college.
Wow.
And that's what I was actually going to go to university and do, was study dance.
Okay.
And then I had an epiphany and changed my mind. But yeah.
So you like to, did you like go on to sort of like on the stage and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I did loads of shows, performances. I don't know if you've heard of Ludlow, if you know the area back in Herefordshire.
Yeah, I've heard Ludlow, yeah.
Used to do the festivals there. So in the summer, the Shakespeare in the Castle, that sort of thing. So always really involved in that.
That's proper thespian stuff, that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I don't know what that says about me. But also my tomboy, so I was quite... I was good with the dance. I was able to use my body really well, but also there's this tomboy side still, and I was always into motorbikes as well. So I always had a motorbike as a kid, a dirt bike. So picture that.
Riding it with your tutu.
Tutu with a motorbike, yeah. Yeah.
Happy days. So did you get any qualifications from school, did you?
Yeah. I had 11 GCSEs.
Wow.
And then
you
went
really
on.
were a SWAT.
Yeah, I did work hard. I wasn't like straight A student. They were mixed, but they were all like grade C and above.
And then you went to college, presumably?
Yeah, I went to Ludlow College and studied dance, drama, English, that kind of thing. So still in that, my head at that point was still, I want to be a backing dancer for a group, that kind of dancing.
Wow, all right.
That's where my head was going.
People. You want to be in Pan's people.
Were they? I'm joking.
You're making me feel old now. That's what you're doing, isn't it? Right. So, what was this epiphany then? Why did you suddenly go? I'll tell you what. Halt on the dancing. I've got something else I need to do.
There was I don't know what it was. I remember my mum took me. So I got offered a place at London Contemporary Dance School.
Okay.
And then my dad took me to Chester University for their open day, and that's one of my placements that I was offered as well. And they were great. It was, magical. It was everything probably I'd been geared towards working towards, but there was just something not quite fitting the bill.
Yeah.
So I had a chat with my parents. I said, I think I need a year out. I don't think I can commit to this lifestyle just yet. So my dad, being my dad, was like, well, that's fine, but you pay now. You pay rent. You get yourself a job. You are not here for free.
Yeah.
So if you need that year, you take that year, but you are paying your way. So I just got a job in the local pub. I got myself a job in a factory in the daytime. And literally this one sort of spring, so that we're talking 8 months into my year off, I'm laying in my friend's garden and an RAF Chinook flew over really, really low. And there was something about that in my head still. It's like in slow motion.
Yeah.
And that for me was like, what is that? Who flies that? And how do I get to go on one of those?
Yeah.
And so I did a little bit of research before the old Google days and discovered that it was Royal Air Force, it was this, it was that. So took myself off to the Armed Forces Careers Office.
Okay, and decided on the RAF based on the fact you'd seen a Chinook?
Yeah.
Going over your house?
Yeah.
Probably on its way in there. What year was that?
That would have been 97.
Oh, I could have been on that.
Might have been.
I might have been on that. Anyway, so you went to the careers office.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea of what direction you wanted to do or what you wanted to do, or did you just go,
No idea.
Chinook? That's
Absolutely no idea. None of my family had been in. My grandfather had been in the RAF, but years before, and only, in the conscription days. So I had no one really to talk to about it. And I hid it from my parents. So I sat the aptitude tests, got given a list of jobs that I could do. The army tried to poach me while I was there.
Did they really?
Yeah. They were like, if you're not, get on with these lot, come and join us lot. And they do it all the time.
I bet they do,
yeah. And so I chose the role of what we now call HR or personnel support. Back then it was personnel administration, so clerk in old money.
Okay.
Just because I thought I could work anywhere with that. I can be on any unit in the UK, a lot of other military units such as Army, Navy units. I can work abroad with it. Yeah. And it's a skill for when I leave. So that was kind of the thinking. So I was thinking about all that at that time.
So you obviously got accepted. You got into this role. What was your basic training like?
I loved it.
Because you have to do some green stuff, don't you? You've got to shoot some guns and all that sort of stuff.
Run around a field.
We love guns here.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I actually really enjoyed it. I know that sounds a bit odd, but
that would be your tomboy side coming straight out.
The tomboy was loving it.
Did you ever think, I'll tell you what, I don't want to be in the office anymore. I want to go and flat pack someone.
Yeah. Do you know what? and as we progress through our conversation, you'll see a theme with me with the tomboy thing. I can't dumb it down ever.
No.
But yeah, the basic training I loved. Friends that I made on that training are still my friends now. Yeah. We still make time for each other, even though I'm the only one left serving. They're all out now.
How long have you been in?
25 years.
Wow. Okay. Long old time.
So yeah, it's definitely. It was an eye-opener because at that point, growing up from a little village in Herefordshire to join in the military, suddenly there's people with accents.
Yeah.
Like, there's a northerner.
Some that you can't even understand.
And I genuinely, for years, had a bit of a fear for Scottish accents. They scared the life out of me. And I think it's because one of my DS was Scottish and quite angry. And
they just sound angry. He probably wasn't angry. Just sound angry, didn't they?
Sounded angry. But yeah, obviously I overcame that. But yeah, it was. I loved it. All the training, to be honest, that I've ever been involved in. When you look back, maybe there's points during it you're like, oh, really?
Yeah, always. Yeah, like, everything I've done, there's always been a point where you've gone.
Why are they gassing us? Why do they need to gas us? What? Why? That's not normal.
I'm gonna be sort of like helping people with, and you've gassed me. Thanks for that. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah. So I genuinely have very fond memories.
Yeah.
That will stick with
Is there
me
much of a
forever.
drinking culture when you was in the RAF then, was there?
Oh yeah.
Here we go.
Still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went through with your mates and that, and presumably they would have gone to all branches and all over the place when you sort of like finished. Do you know what I mean?
It's very
not
mixed. So I think the RAF are quite different with the way their recruitment and their basic training. You all in training together, and then you go off and do your specialist training.
How long was your specialist training for?
About 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too long.
And what were you
really.
actually doing? What did your role consist of? You said HR, but I don't. You're talking to a grunt here. I don't understand that.
So your pay, moving you around the world electronically so that your pay's right, your expenses are correct. The welfare is the big part. That's a huge part for us, and that's probably one of the reasons a lot of people choose that role is because of the roles that you get to do around welfare.
So you're looking after people, basically.
Looking after you.
And how many people would you have been responsible for? Would you go to a unit, say, or would you would your skills go across the board with everybody?
If you're on, so I've spent a lot of my service career at Bryce Norton, which is a huge unit.
Yeah,
and
massive.
If you're in the main admin office there, as it was called years ago, then you're responsible for up to about 6,000 people on paper.
Okay.
Divvied out in different roles between you.
Yeah.
If you're a squadron clerk, which is what I've done as well, you've got about maybe 600-700 people.
Okay. Still a lot of people, isn't it?
It is, yeah, to keep on top
Who
of.
are all going to be getting different rates of pay and
moving all over the world.
All going to have their problems and all.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of an agony aunt.
Yeah, and I did a lot of time as well at ADW, which is the parachute school in Albany.
Okay.
So my posting with them was fairly early on in my career, but I've stayed with them up until this year, seasonally working with them.
Okay.
So I still work with the parachute teams that go around
the
the
world. Is
world.
that based out of Bryce as well,
Yeah.
is it? So you're still with Bryce?
I'm in Bristol at the moment, but because I work on the RAF Falklands parachute team, wherever they go.
What are they like? They follow me on Instagram.
They're good.
I want a day out with them. Go back and say Big Phil wants to come down and have a visit, all
well,
right?
do you know, right now, the OC and the deputy OC are both female.
Are they?
First time ever.
Big Phil definitely
history.
wants to go for a visit.
Yeah, I bet he does. They're very attractive young ladies.
So, yeah, you can jack that one up for me. So
I'll sort that out for you.
We'll plug the Falcons on here because they're great, aren't they?
Yeah, they're brilliant.
They are superb.
And we've obviously done a lot of shows alongside the Reds.
If I could get some weight off, they might even tandem me. They might even push me out with them. I'll have some of that.
Oh, they can get you a day at Bryce.
Definitely.
Chuck you out the fan.
Right, yeah, we will. Right, we'll have some of that. Right.
Yeah.
So, going back to your story, okay, and stop squaring away, Big Phil. Your career, where did it take you? Outside of Bryce and that, did you do any tours? Did you go away anywhere?
Yeah. So, my first tour was out in the Falklands.
Yeah.
I think it's the standard RAF first tour for everyone. They send you there just to see what you're made of, and it's cold and it's not very.
Yeah, were
It's
you
a
in
bit
sort of like
miserable.
MPH where you were in the
Mount Pleasant. And I was out there for the 20th anniversary of the war, so it was really good because a lot of the veterans came back to do the battlefield tours, so you got it firsthand from the guys.
So did you go out with them? Did you?
Yeah, it was brilliant,
superb.
It's fantastic timing, really. To be out
that's
there.
really cool.
So that was a really great start because I'd only been in a few years at that point.
Yeah.
So it was a great first tour to go on and meet some incredible people as well along the way.
There was some drinking done down there and all, wasn't there?
Oh my word. I think that was the year it made the Sun newspaper. But it was nothing to do with me. No, it was great. We had the parachute regiment down there with us. So it was a mixture of all 3 battalions. So that was quite good. I ended up marrying one of them.
Wow, okay.
And we'll come on to that, I'm sure, later.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Yeah, it was a brilliant time. Good memories.
Superb. So Falkland Islands, where to then?
So I came back from the Falklands and I actually got posted to London. So I worked in London for a bit. And then my next op tour was Bosnia.
Okay.
So I went out to Banja Luka.
Banja Luka, the metal factory?
Yeah.
Yeah, know it.
And then did some time in Sarajevo as well after that. And then back to Banja Luka.
Yeah.
I really liked it out there, and it's a funny old place.
We used to come and go when I was we
it's
sort of
a
like turn up.
beautiful country.
Yeah,
you know, when
lovely
you get
place.
out and actually explore.
My mum used to go on holiday over there. Do you know what I mean? She used to go to Dubrovnik, I think it was. It's down the bottom there on the coast, isn't it? She loved it over there. Lovely place.
It's beautiful. And I flew in and out of Croatia a lot while I was there.
Yeah.
And obviously, Croatia's a hotspot for holiday makers now.
Yeah.
But they've got some amazing landscapes that would make ski resorts, but they're still mined.
Yeah.
So they couldn't do anything with it, which is a bit sad, really.
Yeah, really sad. Yeah, do a nice bottle of wine. I've still got a bottle of wine from Banjaloo, I think, some local plonk. I don't know what it tastes like now. So, Afghanistan as well, I think you've been to.
Yeah, I went to Afghanistan.
How was that?
I have to say it's probably the best op tour I did.
Okay. Where were you based out of?
I was in Kandahar.
Okay.
And I was attached.
Hot down there, isn't it?
It was so hot. It's like you get off, you're like, your breath is taken away because it's so humid. But I was attached to one of the task forces out there.
Okay.
So, and this is what I mean. The tomboy in me came out, and I saw a signal years ago about, you know, anyone from any background within the military can volunteer to be selected for and trained to be detention handlers, tactical questioners.
Okay. So now you changed roles. So you weren't over there doing pay slips.
No, I wasn't.
You're over there, man. Right. Well, come on, tell me about it. I want to know.
It was amazing. It's I always remember.
So you must have had to do some specialist training before you went. How was that?
Yeah, it was down at Colchester.
Okay.
And it was some para guys that were training us. Yeah. And we used part of the prison for obviously the techniques, etc. And I've never, ever been so black and blue in my life as I have from that course. And I remember them taking us out and we were literally getting attacked by, I'm assuming they were paras in disguise. And it was all to do with riot training. So they were riot training us outside in this field. And we were literally getting hit like we would for real. Whereas normally, obviously, when you're in training, in my old role.
In the RAF training.
It's
sort of like
a lot more softer skills than that. So it was quite a shock.
All of a sudden you got 3 para kicking your head in.
Basically. And I remember having this bruise. So that training course was about 6 weeks before I deployed. And that bruises on my legs were still there when I flew out. It was intense training.
So you got out there, you got on the ground.
Yeah.
What was your role and how did you find it?
So every time the Special Forces went out to collect an objective or to get intelligence, etc., if they happened to stumble across people, we'd get a call, come meet us, there's a pickup, or we'll bring them back to you, we'll meet you at this point because we're going somewhere else. And so that was my role, was we pretty much had a Chinook on call for us, so that was great. So my little dream all those years ago came true.
Yeah, you're in there now.
It was like a big tick. But also it was, I really liked the reactionary nature of that work.
Yeah, so you stood to all the time.
Yeah, I loved that.
You're ready to go.
Yeah.
What, armed?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so tooled up.
So we had pistols and rifles.
Clubs?
No, but I'm sure I'd have picked a stick up if I'd have needed.
You might have had to go and get a paratrooper, like, you know what I mean? You never know.
But I always remember them laughing at me because my body armour was too big. So I remember the guys that I worked with trying to put
Black nasty it on.
Yeah, put me in it basically to make it fit. They were like, that's no use. It was just massive on me. But it was really, really good. I think the work that was done out there.
So you pick these people up,
pick them up,
bagged and tagged.
Bagged, tagged.
Yeah.
Well, not bags. You know, not
All right.
allowed to do that.
Not bagged and tagged them, but yeah, I'll say bagged and tagged very loosely.
Restrained.
Of course, yeah.
And we'd get them back to the facility, and then do all their biometric testing. So do all that. We'd get the medics, the dentists, and
did they ever used to kick off? Ever any boot offs with them? Have to proper wind them in?
I got headbutt once by a tiny guy. Actually, I was really surprised he reached. But no, most of them were actually really calm and composed and went with it. And our job was to try and keep them calm, say very little till they got to their first interrogation session.
Yeah.
And that was,
Did you sit in any of those, did you?
No, but we used to watch
You
them.
used to take them backwards and forwards,
yeah,
and that?
Yeah, so we had the door, we called it. So the door between us and them.
Yeah. Could you hear what was going on, or...?
No, so we
lots
had
of screaming and shouting in
so
Afghan.
we had obviously a big camera that we could see every room.
So you'd be
every
poised ready for
interaction.
if it did go off like Chinese
So
New
we
Year.
would-
You'd be in and
We'd be running.
you're going back to your cell, son.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but they were. It was really interesting because we used to give them their exercise breaks and sit out in the yard with them. And some of them, were really well educated and they would want to try and converse with you. And obviously our job was to non-committal, say very little.
Yeah.
But I remember communicating with one because he was in pain with something and we were trying to work out what it was and he'd had toothache.
Right, okay.
So we had this, this dialogue going on where we were teaching each other. I was teaching him the English for what your face bits were, and he was teaching it me back in Pashto so that I could relay it off to the interpreter. Say, I think it's his tooth. He's got toothache, and it was things like that. So it was just fantastic, and I just, like I say, I like the reaction part. It's like phone rings off.
Yeah, it's a real job as well, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You're in your combats. You're getting dirt. You're getting your hands. You're having a proper go at it, isn't you?
And that's what I joined. I didn't join up just to be a clerk. I joined up to travel, to see the world, to see it in its purest form, essentially, the good and the bad. And I knew I wouldn't get to do that if I stayed a clerk, essentially, throughout my career. I had to put myself
So you
forward.
volunteered for that.
Yeah.
That's proper commendable. How long did you do down there? Did you spend your whole time in Kandahar?
Yeah, but we moved, obviously, the detainees between areas. So we used to move them sometimes down to Bastion if they weren't deemed.
And that was done on a CH-40 on a Chinook?
Yeah, Chinook or Herc.
Okay.
And we also used to take them off to Bagram as well.
And was that sort of like orange boiler suits and all that sort of caper?
Well, you could see, that you hand them over to the Americans, essentially, in Bagram.
Because there was quite a bit of controversy concerning prisoners and all that sort of stuff. Did you get briefed on that? Did you get sort of like embroiled in any of it?
So years later, I had a phone call from an SIB guy asking if I was so-and-so Smith, or was I in Afghanistan during these times, which lined up pretty much perfectly when I was there.
Yeah.
Arranged to come and see me, and at the time I was at St. Athan years later. And I was literally thinking, what's going on here? And obviously with the stuff that was going on in the press, it's like, right, I really need to gather my thoughts here. And then the day before they were just about to leave, they'd got the wrong Smith.
He must have been giving it 50 pence a pound, like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Not that I had anything to worry about, but when, with everything that goes on in the media.
You never know. I mean, when you think about
don't know.
Brian Wood's story, Brian got stitched up, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? Brian didn't do nothing, they said. And he ended up, getting dragged across the coals and all sorts.
Yeah, exactly.
So you never know, do you?
Worry,
Yeah,
even if you are 100% in your mind, you are good.
Yeah.
There's still that element of doubt. You start doubting yourself.
Yeah.
But it was fine.
So the one tour of Afghan, did you go back? Did you do any more?
No.
That was it. So you came back from there. Where did you go? St. Athens?
So I was at St. Athan, back to Bryce.
What rank were you by now?
Sergeant.
Okay.
So back to Bryce Norton and then Bristol, and I've been at Bristol since.
Cool. Still a sergeant, yeah?
Yeah.
So you're pretty much in the role that you've got. That's as far as you're going to get.
Or
is that as far as you've let yourself get?
Yeah, I turned down promotion before. Just because the role, when you get promoted, I don't know what it was like in the army, but you get told then what's happening to you rather than a choice. And
I always usually get them taken off, not put on.
Commendable.
Yeah.
But yeah, normally in our careers in the RAF, we have quite a big say where we go, what we do. And on promotion, there's a lot of, this is what you get.
Yeah.
And it didn't fit my life at the time. So I was like, no, thanks.
Okay, so what point did you get married?
I got married in 2004 to a paratrooper.
Did you meet him at Bryce?
No, in the Falklands.
You met him in the Falklands?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said, yeah.
Met him in the Falklands. It was a Falklands fling that actually turned serious.
Yeah.
And we're not married anymore, but we're still really good friends.
Okay.
We were married for 17 years, together for 19. Okay. Got 2
Is
children.
He still in?
No, he left. He left in 2019. He was at SFSG.
Okay.
one of the sergeant majors over there.
Belt-fed tours for him, it would have been.
Yeah. So it was really hard. You know, when you look back trying to be a mum and a service person, married to another service person who's away a lot.
Yeah.
It was difficult. I don't know how we did it, you know, when you look back.
Yeah,
somehow
that must have been incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, childcare alone, all that sort of stuff. Do you know
And we
what I mean?
weren't ever near family. So St Athan was probably the closest we were to Herefordshire.
Yeah.
So, you know, we did rely on that military community.
Yeah, I'm
that
sure,
military family. And we all tried to help each other out.
Must have come to the fore there, you know what I mean? Yeah, no,
definitely.
Brilliant. So it didn't work out with him?
No, we got divorced a few years ago, but as I said, we're really good mates.
Okay, that's nice that you can keep the friendship thing going and it's not a complete cluster.
We've got a younger one who's 13 next month who primarily lives with him.
Yeah.
And our eldest son is actually in the Air Force as well. So he saw the light and joined the right service.
I'm not even getting in this argument with you, all right? It's your deal, right? Listen, so you had a medical condition.
Yeah.
It's something I want to talk about because sitting across the table here, there's nothing obvious at all, is there?
I know, yeah. And
absolutely nothing.
This is sometimes what is, it's not frustrating because I don't want it to appear that there is a medical condition at all.
Yeah.
I want to live my life the best I can. And to do that, I have to push through in that military mental mindset.
So when were you diagnosed with it?
I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2015.
2015, okay. So, yeah. And did you know that there was something wrong?
Yeah.
Did you sort of what was the symptoms? What were you?
Like, when I got back from Afghan, there just certain things kept happening. And I got misdiagnosed for about 3 years with a TIA, which is like a mini stroke.
Okay.
Occipital neuralgia, which is like bad headaches.
Yeah.
They thought I had PTSD from Afghanistan, and I said I haven't. I don't.
I enjoyed it.
I loved it.
It was great.
And then I literally was at this point working in Winchester,
right,
at the barracks there. And one of my army colleagues, he kind of just noticed that I wasn't walking as he would normally deem me walking, and he said, "Mate, you might want to go to med centre. You look like you're a bit off balance."
Yeah.
And I hadn't noticed anything. Hadn't noticed a deterioration at all, and left it. And then bit by bit, it got worse. But again, I wasn't monitoring it. The same guy took a video of me, and he went, "Look how you veer off to the left all the time, and then you straighten yourself up, and then you're off again." So I went to the med centre. They sent me straight to hospital. So I was still in my uniform, and I didn't come out for 5 days.
Wow.
So
And were you diagnosed when you came out?
Yeah, on the last day.
So when they said to you on the last day you've got multiple sclerosis, what did you think then?
Oh, do you know what? I think back to that moment, and that doctor sat on the bed telling me that, and for me it was end of career.
That must have been an awful moment in your life.
Yeah, and
that's like as far as I know, and I don't know a lot about the disease, and I'm hoping you're going to educate me this afternoon on this, right? But as far as I'm concerned, if somebody turned around and said to me, "Phil, you got multiple sclerosis," I'd be like, "Oh, that's me. I'm buggered. I'm done."
Yeah, and that's essentially what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought that for me is my career done. I don't know how that affects my mobility longer term. I don't know how that will affect me as a mother. You know, am I going to keep up?
Did you manage to get any positives out of it at all? Maybe sort of like, oh, there's a blue badge inbound. Do you know? I don't know. I'm searching for them now. Do you know what I mean?
I think the only positives for me was, and this sounds awful, but when they were doing all the tests, they did quickly tell me they were eliminating. So they knew which family the disease was, but they were eliminating. And the 3 that are in that family are motor neurone, Parkinson's, and MS.
Okay.
So when he told me MS on day 5, I was like, okay, I'll take that. I can deal with that.
Yeah, that's the best of the.
That's the best of a bad bunch, and I can.
It's amazing what perception does, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? When you look at it that way, when you said MS, you go, "Oh my god, better than those 2. I'm all right. I'm all right."
Yeah, exactly. And I had to switch my mindset into, okay, I don't have motor neuron and I don't have Parkinson's. And to be honest, had I have had any of those, I really don't know how I'd have dealt with it. But MS, my dad's sister has MS, so I've always
Okay.
known her with it. And she's always been really resilient, really strong. I think I've only seen her really wobbly once
Yeah.
over my whole life. And I thought, well, if she can do it,
I'm going to have a go.
and I'm not going to use the word lightly, but if a civvy can be cool with it,
Yeah,
I'm going to be cool with it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and it became difficult though, because the services at the time back then, and we're talking 8 years ago, really weren't geared up for people getting sick or an illness.
No, so how do they sort of like, what do they say to you? Sort of like, oh, okay.
Well,
you go back and you speak to your sergeant major and you go, oh, yeah, I've got MS.
Well,
Where does it go from there?
Yeah, and no one knew what to do with me. So I went back to camp, and the colonel that I worked for was a really nice chap, and he just sent me home because I lived obviously in South Wales at the time. And he said, go home, don't come back to work, don't think about work, we'll be in touch. So that spun me out a little bit as well.
Because you actually presume you wanted to carry on working. So now you've been sent home, you're doing exactly what I don't want to happen here.
And it was a double-edged sword for me, because I thought, okay, well, I get to go home, but what are they doing in the background? And that was in the November.
Yeah.
The January after Christmas, I rang the camp and said, what's going on? What's happening? I've kind of just been sat here getting paid for doing nothing. And they went, oh, yeah, oh, hi, how you doing? And it's at that point I got in touch with a career manager friend of mine. And I said to him, I want to work. What's the options? What do I have? And he said, because of the tempo of your job back in Winchester, because I was a phase 2 instructor, and it was led by the army. So we were doing a lot of fears, the normals, not so much RAF style. He said, they're not going to let you go back there. So I think the best thing we can do is get you a geographical posting home for 12 months while the Air Force figure out what's happening. So they posted me back to St. Athan, where I went in and did some work on a project, essentially, in their training school there.
How were people with you there? Did they treat you differently at all, or was it right, welcome to the
everyone
team?
kept trying to send me home.
Really?
It was like the weirdest thing. I was like, people probably want that at some point, but when you're trying to fight to prove yourself and prove your worth, that's the last thing you want. You want to be there.
And what sort of symptoms were you getting, and how often?
So it's really hard, because everyone with MS is so different. So my symptoms that can lead to a relapse are, I get like left side weakness, which is why they obviously pre-diagnosed me with a TIA.
With the stroke, yeah.
And I get, my speech can slur, so that's always a sign for me when
that's a combat indicator that it's inbound.
And people think I'm drunk sometimes, and I'm really not. It's just like, at first I found it amusing, and then I didn't, because I was like, no, I'm here, I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
So people were absolutely fine with me, probably trying to protect me, which is great, but at the same time I'm trying to prove. And I remember the doctor at St. Athan, the RAF squadron leader doctor, he actually sat me down and showed me the medical JSP for neurological illnesses.
Okay.
And there was one paragraph, very generic, didn't really tell him what to do with me from an administrative point of view. But he had, luckily, been the doctor on Invictus Games the year before.
Okay.
So he said, you're eligible for all this now, don't you? I went, no, I'm serving for one, and it's for veterans. And he went, no, it's not. It's for serving and veterans. And you have an illness. That illness is never going to go away. That's a diagnosis. So you are now eligible. Open that door and see where it leads you. And that started something quite big for me.
Pretty much what you did. So you've been involved in some games, haven't you? Warrior games.
Warrior games, yeah.
What did you do? What was your discipline?
Well, so I did powerlifting.
Okay.
I know you're looking at me now like, what? My little chicken arms.
Not at all, right?
Powerlifting. I did the sitting volleyball because I wanted to do a team sport.
Okay.
I did the indoor rowing. I did athletics. So I did some sprinting.
Okay.
And I did shooting. So I did quite a bit. Yeah.
Wow. How did you get on?
Came back with 6 medals. So I had 4 silver and 2 bronze.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was really chuffed with that. It was, for me, because that was in 2017. no, 2019 that was. So a few years after diagnosis, I'd found my feet, I'd settled down a bit. And then that happened, and I thought, you know what? Pretty much do what I want. I've just got to look after myself along the way a bit better.
Did you get any mental health surrounding all this?
Massive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to me about that?
Yeah. So I remember coming out of the hospital, going back home, and I always remember because it's November the 5th. So that day is always, stark in my mind. And I remember driving back from Winchester to Wales, and obviously fireworks are going off everywhere.
Yeah.
And my head is just in a shed. And I remember talking to my husband about it, and he didn't really know what MS was or anything. No. And I didn't want to labour the point. I just said, we just need to probably get our heads around a few things, and we'll just play it by ear for now and see how we go. But I remember that night just not sleeping. And I was in Tesco at 3 o'clock in the morning doing my weekly shop because I just couldn't settle down. And for the next 2 years, it was like a roller coaster. My emotions were up and down. I'd have really big highs when I thought I'd had a little win, and then I'd hit a low. And all of this, partly was in line with, so I got promoted not long after I was on my 1 year sabbatical, if you like, at St. Athan. And I remember getting this letter saying, congratulations on your promotion, but we're not going to extend your contract like we would for anyone else. So I remember sort of sitting on it and thinking, no, hang on, that's not right. I've had a medical board at this point who've told me I'm fit enough to stay in the service, fit enough to deploy. Yeah. The only place I couldn't deploy back to was the Falklands because of how far it was from anywhere else. And so
you could have done another Afghan, you could have done an Iraq, you could have...
And I was due to go to Kabul just before they pulled out. Okay. So I was down to go. So I remember meeting a lady called Major Mandy Islam, who's sadly not with us anymore. But she was a massive crusader for trying to bridge that gap for service people with illnesses. Yeah. And not just discarding our people, retaining our people, retain the experience, let's use them. And she befriended me, and she invited me down to this meeting in London where she let me speak openly, and I did. I thought I've nothing to lose at this point.
No, it's shit or bust, isn't it?
Yeah, so I spoke in front of very senior MOD officers from all branches and arms and just said how I'd been let down, and had the letter with me that I'd got from HQ Air Command RAF saying, that's how much I'm valued after 17 years service.
Yeah. And how much I've actually put in and how much I've still got to give.
Yeah. And so, to be fair, there were two officers, and one of them is now a really good friend of mine, Brigadier Fred Hargreaves. He's out of service now, but he was heavily involved with the setup with Harry of the Invictus Games.
Okay, cool.
So he was absolutely disgusted with it. But what Mandy had done in this meeting room is collected a load of us with very similar stories and presented us in front of these senior officers to say, look, you've got these high caliber people sat around this table who have just been treated like that. We need to sort this out. Yeah. And so there became a network formed called the Candid Network, Chronic Conditions and Disability in Defence. And that was formed in 2018, and I was one of the founding members, still am, on it. And that led to me fighting battles, not just for myself, for everyone else, and not just for MS. We had a lot of issues surrounding people who had cancer. The forces didn't know what to do, and cancer's so common. So we kind of got into this big area, this big pit where there was no answers. And between all three services, there had to be some change, some positive change.
And are they making those positive changes? Are they going with? Because they do seem to be sort of like wanting to do something, but then sometimes I look at them and go, well, why aren't we doing it now? Do you know what I mean?
It has. I have to say, since I've been doing this area of work as well, it's stepped up hugely.
Good.
However, I think there's still a lot.
I think with all of it, with the mental health in as general, you know what I mean? I think there's a long way to go before we're anywhere near out of the woods. You know what I mean?
mental health at the moment in the forces, everywhere, not just the forces, is huge.
Yeah.
And do you know what I noticed last week was it was International Men's Day.
Yeah.
And I was so happy that there was an International Men's Day, because I appreciate, I'm a woman. We're very well promoted these days, and compared to when I first joined the forces, it was a very different service then. But what about the guys as well, And I was really happy to see on, my LinkedIn feeds and things that people were celebrating International Men's Day, because for me, I've struggled with mental health, and I've been some dark holes myself and had to scramble my way out. But a lot of people you hear about that take the mental health to the extreme are generally guys. And I think it's through the fear of communication, being, my son's only been in service 2 years and he's seen 2 suicides.
Yeah, I just, for me, the whole, I call it the S word, and it breaks me.
Yeah,
I've seen
hideous.
it since, the first one I ever saw, 1989, Dibworth, do you know what I mean? And it was just, rest him, but it's just, it's blighted my whole career, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Having seen it all the way through, and since I've been a veteran, next level.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And I think I really like some of the, I was at the Millie Awards years ago, and one of the winning categories was the Beacon guys.
Yeah.
Have you seen their page on Facebook, the Beacon Alert?
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think I might have been at the same Millies. I went there with the Sun newspaper, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I did do one, and they were there.
Yeah. So I was up for an award then. I didn't get one. But I remember the Beacon Alert guys, because I just started following them and trying to work out what they were about. And
Yeah.
And I now...
All call signs.
Is it all call
Is
signs?
it all call signs?
It's all call signs, and then they put out a Beacon Alert.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I do know. Yeah.
So it's good that we look after each other in that sense, but that's a small community of people doing that. I just think there's such wider issues.
The awareness of it needs to be brought to attention, and I think until people that haven't got the problem will recognise the problem within people that have got the problem, we've still got a massive problem. Do you know what I mean? So there needs to be awareness, and that's why, although it's quite a down subject even sometimes to talk about. Do you know what I mean? But I think it needs talking about. So you come at the end of your 25 years. You're going to pop smoke. You're going to disappear down the range. What are you going to do?
I have a job with Babcock.
Oh, okay. All right.
Kind of take a uniform off.
They are good. Babcock are great with service leavers, aren't they? They've got a good policy, I think.
So they came and found me. There was a specific job they wanted me to do. So
which is? Can you tell me?
It's looking after some of their HR projects that I'm not 100% myself yet, but they sold it to me as though I'm going to be looking after some HR projects that currently don't exist.
Okay.
So they found me through a lot of the work that I do with disability and illness. Okay. So I'm kind of hoping it's in that area, and that's what they've called upon my specialisation for. Okay. So I've got a 2-year project essentially, and then I'll be retained within the company and move on to another project.
Cool. Where's that going to be based out of?
So it's remote working, but my office will be Bristol, which I will be going into, because I do, as much as remote working is great, I don't think it's great for your head. Yeah. So I like being around people.
Yeah, I do. COVID murdered me. I'm going to be honest. I was in Spain for quite a bit of it. I was at home. Do you know what I mean? It was, I wasn't doing so much of any of this. Do you know what I mean? Other than a bit of radio work, and murdered me. I was like, it really did. I couldn't wait to go and see people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I like being there. Yeah.
And there's only so much FaceTime you can do, I think. I think smelling, I know that sounds awful, smelling people and touching people.
Yeah, just being in that presence of having people
totally
around
different.
you. Yeah, it is different. It is. I totally get that. So anything else? Right, I'm going to give you anything else you want to plug?
Anything else I want to plug?
I want you to plug anything you like here. Do you know what I mean?
No, I just, for me, I think the service community, whether you're in or not, there is a lot of support and there's a lot of opportunities whilst you're in or you're out. One thing I will plug is the Armed Forces Para-Ski team.
Okay.
They will take anyone who shows an interest in skiing, whether they've they're physically disabled or not. And they will give them some skills, and potentially that can lead on to all sorts.
Yeah.
You've got your Scott Meaner, who's an ex-paratrooper, who, double amputee, who's now a Paralympian.
Yeah.
So there's all these organisations out there, charitable trusts that help fund them.
Yeah. People need to get involved.
To get off your bottom and have a go.
I think you're right there. I think you've got to, at some stage you've got to grip yourself wherever you fancy gripping yourself and say to yourself, I need to do something. And there is plenty of stuff out there. I do see, a lot of veterans with a lot of problems, but, one of the problems is you need to actually start doing stuff. Do you know what I mean?
You've got to have a desire and
there's
a want.
There's got to be some positivity.
Yeah.
And if you can't find that, then speak to somebody who can help you to find that. Do you know what I mean? Because I think everybody can turn it around as far as I'm concerned. I don't see anybody that couldn't turn it around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really cool. Listen, thanks for coming in. All right.
You're welcome.
Hopefully you'll come back again. If you do get involved with anything else sports-wise, or you want anything plugging, let us know, and we'll do our best to help with you. And hopefully you are a friend of our community here at Force Radio. So thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Nice
Cheers.
one. There you go. All right.